Hi, good evening, everybody. You're very welcome to UCD Smurfit School this evening. We're just going to give it a moment to allow all our participants to join the webinar, and we'll be with you very shortly. Right, so I can see that people are joining there, which is fantastic. You're all very welcome. I'll just give it one more second, still a last one or two joining. Great. Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Edel O'Leary, and you are most welcome this evening to what is actually our final information evening of the series. For those of you looking to start the MBA program at Smurfit School here this August. The purpose of these evenings has been to provide you with some insight into the MBA programs at Smurfit School, and I'm going to do that again by sharing a short number of slides. The purpose really is for you to get to know some of our faculty who'll be teaching on the programme and to give you a sense of what it will be like to return to the classroom. So as I go through the presentation this evening, we're also joined by our Academic Director, Associate Professor Kieran Heavey, by Catherine Del Zesto, who takes care of the full-time MBA programme, and Associate Professor Luca Pistilli, who teaches Digital Transformation and Innovation. And Luca will give us a taster lecture this evening on preparing to transform your organisation. We'll then be joined by our panel, current student Greg Collison, who is in year 2 of his EMBA programme, by Cathal O'Rian, who is an EMBA alum from 2022, and by Monica Filush, also an alum from 2023. And last but not least, my colleague Mairead Mulvey, who is our MBA admissions manager, will give some final details on the application process and some key dates. Just to make you aware, we will be using the Q&A function on the bottom of your screen there this evening. So if there are any questions at all for any of the sessions as we go through, please do submit them. And as I said, we have a broad MBA team here available to you this evening, and we will do our utmost to answer them as we go. And then we may keep one or two to actually put to Luca and to our panelists, so that you get an opportunity to hear from them directly. In order to keep my presentation as concise as possible, I have several links to content that I will post into the chat function for you. So that's separate to the Q&A function. We'll post any links into chat. Great, so let's get started. So why the Smurfit MBA? And that's really a key question you should ask. How does the school, and specifically the programme, rank in a global environment? And to give you some context about UCD Business School itself, we're one of the longest established business schools in Europe. In the context of the MBA, we were one of the earliest European innovators, launching our executive MBA programme as far back as 1964. And we were one of the first in Europe at that time. The school became Ireland's first world-ranked school in the year 2000 by the Financial Times. And we were the first school in Ireland to receive the Triple Crown accreditation from the awarding bodies in the United States, the United Kingdom, and in Europe. And those are the AACSB, AMBA, and EQUIS, and that's as far back as 2002. Just to put that in context for a moment, there are just over 100 Triple Crown schools globally, out of almost 15,000 business schools. So we really are in an elite group. The school is a founding member of GNAM, a partnership of international business schools initiated by Yale School of Management. And I'm going to refer to this again later during my presentation because it forms a key part of your MBA experience. From a program point of view, our flagship MBA programs are consistently ranked by the Financial Times and QS in the top 100 business schools globally. But more importantly, as part of the rankings process, our students are also asked to rate their overall satisfaction with the programme. And I'm happy to say we are the highest performing MBA programme in Ireland for overall student satisfaction and for delivering against student aims. As one of the oldest MBA programmes in Europe, we have a track record and a reputation for delivering an outstanding programme with a significant reputation. And our history also means that we have by far the largest MBA global alumni base with a growing number of female alumna. Last August, our largest intake of female students in one class cohort joined us. Our EMBA class this year is 61% female. And over our 3 class cohorts, females now represent 48% of all our current MBA students. So there may be a couple of questions at the front of your mind that have brought you here this evening. Is an MBA right for me? Do I have what it takes to complete the MBA? What can I expect in terms of workload? How will I balance all the other aspects of my life? So the great news is that I have a fantastic panel here this evening that you will hear directly from. But what I can tell you is that everyone here studying the MBA has a desire to accelerate their career and what is an increasingly competitive employment market to take control of their career and to ultimately manage their own income potential over the longer term. There are 3 core features of our MBA that make it unique in both a domestic and international context: academic excellence, action learning, and challenging experiences. Our curriculum provides an in-depth and wide-ranging coverage of all of the major disciplines, from finance to marketing to strategy and HR. Our curriculum is updated on a regular basis to include emerging disciplines such as digital strategy and transformation and data analytics, but it also includes core execution skills such as managing supply chains, operations, and managing negotiations. We offer specialized electives in digital marketing and customer analytics, strategy execution, and strategy development systems. This means that you will benefit from a holistic academic experience, which will allow you to frame your experiences in the workplace and give you confidence in areas that are not particularly your areas of expertise. One of the most evident changes that we hear from students who complete our programs is confidence, being able to hold their own in complex business situations and to make decisions based on knowledge they have learned. My colleagues will post links to the curriculum now into the chat function, and I would encourage you to take your time reviewing the programme at your leisure. Each topic is hyperlinked to a module descriptor where you can read about them in detail. What also makes our curriculum unique is the bench strength of our faculty, both academic thought leaders and leading practitioners. This means that you get to benefit from the latest academic insights, but also practitioner insights, which gives you an opportunity to transfer those learnings into the workplace. What also distinguishes our curriculum is our emphasis on action learning, with innovative and varied teaching methodologies, including guest speakers from industry and our alumni base. In many of our classes, we follow the Harvard CASE method, and the CASE method immerses you in the role of chief decision maker as you navigate the challenges facing companies across the globe. Repeatedly, you will be asked to diagnose the situation, consider alternative courses of action for addressing business opportunities and challenges, and most importantly, learn the skill of debating and defending your choices amongst your peers. Most of all, the Smurfit MBA recognises the importance of peer learning, and you will have ample opportunity to benefit from the unique experiences of one another through class participation and group work in your study teams. We use group work and study teams extensively throughout the programme, and you will make a network of professionals and friends that you will have for the rest of your career. Finally, we will move the needle on your personal and professional development by immersing you in challenging experiences. These include the Global Immersion Week offered as part of GNAM, whereby you can choose to travel to one of over 32 leading business schools globally to participate in a module of your choice. from the IGAD Business School in Mexico to Berkeley in California, Yale and Oxford, to name but a few. It's an optional week-long intensive module taken on site at one of our 32 partner universities in the GNAM program. Featured on the left is some of this year's full-time MBA students at ESMT in Berlin in October. Our EMBA students have an opportunity to travel in June of year 2 of the program. And you will also have an opportunity to take an online module over a number of weeks with our GNAM partners at different stages of the program. Then in March every year, we undertake the Doing Business in International Markets module, which is centered around travel to a country with a different cultural, economic, and institutional context to Ireland, where both the full-time and executive MBA students participate together in company visits, in meetings with high-level executives and cultural activities. And in the center of your screen, you can see a photo of us in Singapore when we just returned a number of weeks ago. Our international consulting project is an intense week spent in a EU city working on a live business challenge presented by a local company at the destination. Featured are some of last year's classes, both full-time and executives, collaborating on a project in Prague. And this year we will travel to Lisbon, and that will happen in June. Both the Doing Business in International Markets and the international consulting projects are compulsory for the full-time program, and we require our EMBAs to travel with us at least once during their 2-year program. The reason for this is that they are specifically designed to allow you to synthesize your learnings over the program, to put the skills and frameworks that you have been learning into practice, and to receive expert tuition from faculty who will travel with you. Both of the modules prepare you ultimately to take on the final project, which is known as the Capstone Project and happens at the end of both programs. In addition to our academic content, we have a dedicated MBA Careers Manager and a program team who will work with you to optimize your readiness and competitiveness for post-program career advancement. Both MBA programs have a leadership and employability program, which we call LEAP, tailored to their timetable. It is unique in the marketplace, and it has a dual focus on building your global leadership competence and your future employability in the market. It's specifically designed to develop a heightened sense of self-awareness of your behavioral competencies, your strengths, your developmental needs, and it is benchmarked against your peers in the market. For some of our EMBAs, career advancement opportunities happen while on the program, and the career service is available to you while you're here, and the individual service is also available to you post-program. Next week, for example, we will be bringing together all of our alumni who have graduated in the last 3 years for a post-MBA career development event. My colleagues will post a link to the relevant sections on our website, one full-time and one executive, and I would encourage you to read over this content at your leisure. So after that whistle-stop tour of the program, I will now take you through the choice of MBA program formats that we offer at UCD Smurfit School. Very simply, there are 2. You can choose to study with us for 12 months or choose to study part-time, also known as the Executive MBA, which takes 24 months to complete. In general, the academic modules are very similar on both programs, both the full-time MBA and the Executive MBA, and what really differs is the delivery formats. As you would expect on the full-time program, students are on campus every day during the academic year, and the international travel modules, as I said, are a required part of the program. Our full-time class is a culturally diverse class with an international focus. On the Executive MBA, students are typically on campus once a month, Friday and Saturday, and occasional Thursdays to complete the LEAP program. All dates are set in advance, for the 2 years of the program, which allows for flexibility of work arrangements and exam dates that are part of the UCD exam calendar. We clearly communicate these in advance, and as I said, and these dates are already available to view on our website. And again, I'll ask one of my colleagues to post the link to the curriculum dates so that you can actually take a look at those. We also require, as I said, as part of the EMBA program, that you travel with us once over the 2 years, either in the Doing Business and International module or in the ICP module. And that can be in year 1 or year 2. Our full-time students tend to be slightly younger and have an international focus, whereas our EMBAs are slightly older with more work experience. There's a very dedicated, detailed section on our website, which my colleagues will also post into the chat function for you. Our full-time MBA is an immersive learning experience, whereas our EMBA suits an independent learner. It's important to say that group work features heavily on both programs, so you're never alone. And through strong teamwork, everyone feels supported and confident. And as I said earlier, we have near gender equity on both programs, but we also strive for diversity of sector and industries when making up the classes. Please do refer to this comparison table on the website and take the opportunity to discuss the pros and cons of each format with any of us, and we'll be giving our follow-up details at the end of the webinar. So that's enough talking from me for now. Now I would like to introduce you to Dr. Luca Pistilli, and I'm going to ask Luca to actually take over and share his screen. And while he does that, I'm just going to say that Luca is a lecturer in strategy and international business and has been so since the year 2019. And prior to joining us at UCD Smurfit School, Luca was a PhD candidate and course director at Bocconi University, Milan. Luca teaches entrepreneurship and CSR modules as part of our undergraduate on the BCom at Quinn School, which is our undergraduate school of business in UCD, and teaches digital strategy and transformation on the MBA here at Smurfit School. I'm going to pass over to you now, Luca, and you can pass back to me when you're ready. And also remember that if you do have any questions for Luca as he goes through his slides, please put them into the Q&A function and I'll be happy to put them to Luca at the end of this presentation. Thank you so much, Luca, and welcome.
Right, thanks, Emilia and Neil. Thanks a lot also for the introductions. Obviously, I'm not going to repeat. Good evening, everyone. Thanks a lot for being here. It's a pleasure to give you a sort of very brief and quick test lecture on some topics that I'm covering at a different level, including the MBA. So, just once again, a few words about myself. I got my Master of Science in Bocconi and Copenhagen Business School with a double degree program. And then I decided to continue with an academic career by the same year, and I got my PhD in business administration and management at Bocconi University in Milan again. Right. So as Idel was mentioning, I've been teaching like a different level, different modules and courses, which include undergrad, graduate, MBA, and executive education. Right. So before starting digging into the core topics, I would love to briefly discuss my teaching philosophy with you. Right. So a sentence that I really like is the following one. Yeah? The fact that a business school should be seen as a health club or as a gym, right, rather than a tanning salon. Now, what does it mean? Well, basically, in a tanning salon, what you usually do, right? You just enter the room, you just stand on the bed for 40 minutes, 45 minutes, something like that. And then after that, you simply go out, you exit the room, and you got that, right? On the other hand, what's happening in a gym, in a health club? Right. So when you enter a gym, so no matter which is your final goal, which can be building muscle or losing weight, whatever, you enter the room. For sure, you have different tools, different equipment. So you have the dumbbells, you have the machines, and so on. You have your coach, right? Your instructor that can guide your training process. Okay? But at the end of the day, in order to reach that final goal, you have to put some energy, okay? So some active involvement in what you're doing. Okay? And this is the reason why I like this parallelism with a business school. Okay? So basically, I can be your coach. I can give you different tools, case studies, slides, books, and so on. But at the very end of the day, if you want to maximize your learning experience, you need to be proactive. And so I really believe in proactivity, and in the modules that I'm teaching at any level, I'm strongly encouraging students to actively participate and build some interesting conversations. And so I really believe in a mutual learning environment that where everyone can and should talk and contribute. Right? Now let's move to the core topic of my modules, and a buzzword here is innovation. Okay? Now this may seem a bit straightforward, but what is innovation? Okay? And in particular, which is the key difference between innovation and invention? Okay? So as simple as that. We can say that innovation is a profitable invention. Okay? So there is the idea that not all the inventions can be commercially exploited. Okay? And so our focus is indeed in those technological inventions that may have some sort of market space, okay, or market application. Okay? Because this is something we should highlight. Technological inventions are not always profitable, unfortunately. Okay? Now, after having clarified this, there are different ways to classify and disentangle innovation. Okay? So probably the most straightforward one is the one about product innovation versus process innovation. And so product innovation is about improving or creating, let's say, a better, a more advanced version of a given product. Okay? While process innovation is about producing the exact same product in a more efficient way. And so usually we refer to process innovation when we are talking about strategies to reduce the overall cost, and so basically the price that we can ask to our customers. Okay? What else? Another distinction that is really important for innovation is the distinction between incremental versus radical innovation. Okay? Now, incremental innovation is about delivering or conceiving something slightly improved as compared to the previous version. Okay? So think about a given smartphone. Of course, you cannot see that very well because there is the virtual background. Consider a given smartphone, let's say iPhone 13, and then a new model has been released on the market. Let's say the iPhone 14. Okay? So this is an incremental innovation. Okay? So better camera, better battery, or more functional screen, and so on. Okay? So it's essentially relying on the same technological concept, okay, but promoting some sort of advancement. Okay? On the other hand, we have radical innovation. Okay? So radical innovation is about introducing into the market something completely new. Okay? So think about, for example, the smartphone revolution. Okay? So I remember when I was a teenager, the Nokia 3330 was very common. Okay? So that was the mobile phone era. And then the first iPhone basically triggered this revolution with a radical innovation, okay? The smartphone. Okay? Now, why is this important? Well, because even if there are thousands of different technologies and thousands or even millions products that are exploiting that same technology. Okay? What the literature discovered is that the trend in terms of technological progression, and I'm going to explain this in a moment, tends to be pretty similar. Okay? So in other words, each technology seems to show a similar evolutionary pattern. Okay? In particular, this evolutionary pattern can be modeled by the very famous S-curve. Okay? Now, according to the S-curve, what we can see is basically that at the very beginning of the technological life cycle, we need a consistent amount of effort. And I'm also trying to draw a little bit so you can see how poor are my painting capabilities. Okay? So at this stage, so basically you need a lot of investment efforts or R&D expenditures in order to have a very low increase in performance. Okay? Now, this remains true up until we have a sort of break-even point, where basically at this stage, you need few additional investments in order to have a very consistent increase in terms of performances. So we can have basically any proxy for performance here and any proxy for efforts or expenditures on the x-axis. Now, this remains true up until we usually have another inflection point, which means that basically we are reaching the technological frontier. And once again, the curve becomes somewhat flat. So once again, we have the similar situation of the beginning. And so we need a consistent amount of expenditures in order to achieve a very minor increase in terms of performance. Now, why is this so interesting in setting? Well, first of all, let's have a look at some empirical data. So this is basically the S-curve represented by considering the microprocessor industry, and those data are taken from Intel. So as you can see, at the very beginning, basically Intel invested a huge amount of resources in R&D, and the progression in terms of number of transistors, well, the number of transistors, I'm not an engineer, but basically can be seen as a proxy for the performance or the quality of microprocessors. So the number of transistors increased in a low fashion. Then we had this sort of inflection point, and the progression became much more rapid. Now it seems that we are somewhat reaching the technological frontier. And now here it's probably when the most interesting thing, at least in my view, comes. So when a given technology is reaching the technological frontier, so usually there is another technology that in the medium run will replace the previous technology. So a B technology that appears. Now, if you look at the graph, something very interesting usually happens. So if you look at the B technology, so this is the new technology. Imagine, we are talking about the photographic industry. So here in for the A curve, we have traditional photography. You may remember the standard films, and you had to go to a specific shop to get the pictures printed and so on. And here we have the digital camera. So the B technology. What happens is that at the very beginning, so when a new technology actually appears, usually the quality, the performance of that new technology is inferior. okay? But, what happens is that after a while, and of course, this time span may vary in the sense that how fast this progression occurs depends on the specific technology. And so the shape is a pretty standard one, but the velocity, the speed can actually change. Okay? So after a while, basically the new technology overcomes the old one. Okay. Now, this is very tricky for incumbents, okay, because in many cases, and I'm going to show you very quickly some famous example of the so-called failure of the incumbent. Okay. Now, the risk is that the incumbent may wrongly believe that this new technology will be inferior forever. Okay? And so those same incumbents may stick with the same technology without or losing the opportunity to basically engage in the new one. Okay? And usually new entrants are, shifting this S-curve. Okay? So this is the reason why, incumbents in many cases, like of course, like there are also several other issues related to resistance, bandwagon effect, and generally speaking, the fact that employees at any level, or even middle managers, want to maintain their status quo. And so there is some sort of resistance. But the fact, once again, that the new technology at the very beginning is usually inferior from a performance point of view as compared to the old one is probably one of the biggest traps and issue in the world of digital strategy and transformation. Right? Now, this is just another example of how the voice over IP technology actually became better than the traditional telecom voice technology, while at the beginning, and you may remember about that, like the voice over IP technology was lower in terms of quality. Okay? And this is exactly what led several incumbents to fail. And so, in other words, when there is a disruption, when there is a new technology, so some new technology that basically shift the curve, incumbents in many cases may fail. Okay? So we can say that disruptive innovation can be seen as a huge challenge. Okay? As promised, we have several cases where incumbents have fallen in that trap. Okay? So probably the most famous one in the literature and in the domain of innovation and technology is the Polaroid and the Kodak case. And so we are talking about the digital photography that basically replaced the old film-based photography. Okay? And those two firms that were the incumbents in the old wars almost lost their entire market share. Okay? What else? The Nokia case and how the smartphone revolution basically killed the former incumbent. As I remember, once again, by the late 90s or early 2000s, everyone had a Nokia phone. And so it was so popular, it seemed like Nokia were going to stay forever on the market as an incumbent. Okay. So this was not the case, and there are several very interesting case studies and papers that show, of course, with several layers of complexities, but in an extreme synthesis, this was a story of adaptation failure. Okay? So this was a story of middle managers and employees that resisted the transitions, okay? Both because they did not believe that the new technology, so the smartphone in that case, could have become what it is nowadays, okay? And also because they felt like they were losing their competitive advantage from an individual point of view in mastering that technology. Okay? Last but not least, another interesting example is represented by Olivetti. So we are in the computer industry domain, and we are referring to the electronic revolution that replaced traditional computers made of vacuum tubes. Okay? So I'm talking about those very large mainframes that were basically placed in a large room, very expensive, very low computing power, and as a consequence, only very large organizations could afford that. Okay? So Olivetti was a market leader for the mainframe computer industry and failed in maintaining their incumbency status when the electronic revolution took place. Okay? Now, this very last case is even more interesting because they understood at that time, so I'm talking about the mid-70s, that something was changing. Okay? So they even set a new division aimed at exploring the new technology, the electronic transistor-based transistors. Okay? But due to internal and external resistance mechanisms, the transition did not succeed. Okay. Now, I try to explain this quite complex issue in 15 to 20 minutes. And what I'd like to do now is to have a brief discussion, or first to hear your opinion about who is going to be the next Nokia, Kodak, or Olivetti. Okay? So if we are considering any given disruptive innovation, which can be, for example, artificial intelligence. And so this is the big trend nowadays. So which are the current incumbents that may actually lose their position, their competitive position in the next few years? Okay? And eventually, if you can add some words about why do you believe that this is going to be the case. Okay? So you can use this link and eventually I can also share this same link through the chat box just for your convenience. I'm giving you just 2 minutes and then we will try to discuss about what you brought here. Oh, thanks, Catherine. Thanks, Emilio. All right, so now you should be able to start seeing the responses. Very good. So will artificial intelligence dislodge search engines if they do not innovate? Will artificial intelligence replace copy editors, translators, data analysts? Whoa, this is food for thought. regarding search engines, my answer would be definitely yes, okay? Unless they do what they are already doing. Okay? So, for example, Bing or Google are already implementing artificial intelligence in their basically platforms, okay, in their services. So, in this way, they are trying to adjust their competencies, okay, and basically prepare for the transformation. Okay, so probably it's pretty hard. Of course, no one has a crystal ball, but my prediction would be that Google is going to stay on the market because the same company is adapting to this huge technological transformation, technological disruption, which is artificial intelligence. Okay. What else? Incumbent Apple entrant Xiaomi. Yes, Apple has failed on provide upgrades on both software and hardware. Android phones are leading, and Xiaomi is a big global player. Yeah, so definitely that's the point. So definitely when the smartphone revolution took place, several other players, so basically Apple started this revolution and several other players actually joined the market indeed, right? But in my view, what's happening here is that they are not disrupting the market. So they are not, entering the market with a disruptive innovation, okay? Like Apple did in respect to Nokia and the other previous players. Okay? So in this sense, probably they are not going to disrupt Apple competitive positioning in a severe way. Okay? So of course we may have a reshuffle or recombination of market dynamics, but since let's say like those entrants are not entering the market with another disruptive innovation, I do not expect a complete debacle for Apple, at least, if we are considering this dynamic. Okay? Facebook, I think Meta will survive because the patent company bought so many of the innovators that will replace the Facebook platform. Yeah, I may agree on that. Yeah, this can be a very interesting point, and I tend to agree on that. Okay, so now I'm just picking the last one because I want to respect my allocated slot, okay? And I don't want to let you stay till the end of the night. Let me grab this on NVIDIA. So NVIDIA is the base of future and precious. For its adaptable means the possibility of innovation. Yeah, I think the story here is quite complex. I was talking about this with my MBA class right this evening. So NVIDIA was probably there, so was the right company at the right time. So basically, NVIDIA was developing those GPUs, so graphic processing units, for a long time. Okay? And almost by chance, because I'm simplifying here just to be quick, almost by chance, GPU revealed to be extremely important and extremely powerful for supporting generative AI. Okay, and so this is the reason why also, like, I'm pretty sure all of you know, like, NVIDIA stocks basically skyrocketed on the stock market, exactly because their technology revealed to be extremely useful for fueling basically the calculation power needed for artificial intelligence. Okay. Now I'm stopping here because I don't want to steal additional time from future speakers. Thanks a million. If you have any question, I can give you my contact, my email, and I will be very happy to answer all your questions. Okay. Thanks a million, and I'm giving back the word to Idel. Thanks again.
Thank you, Luca. That was super. Thank you so much. And you're very right. We could be here all evening, which is a great sign of engagement. So thank you for your time, Luca. And if you do feel like putting your email into the chat box,
Absolutely.
thank you so much. Now, we're moving to the section of the evening whereby I'm going to invite our panelists to turn on their cameras and to say hello. So I'm going to welcome Greg Collison, Monica Filush, and Cathal O'Rian, and I can see them all popping on there. Good evening, guys. You're very welcome.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, and lovely to see you
Adele.
all again. Good, 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 good. So I'm going to start by asking you, if you don't mind, just to introduce yourselves briefly, and if you could tell our audience what program you studied with, what year you graduated, or if you're a current student indeed, and maybe your current position and who you work for, just to set the scene. Thank you so much, Monica. You're in the top left of my screen, so I'll start with you. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So yes, I'm Monica Filush. I graduated last year at the EMBA, and yeah, it's been quite a process, right? I'm basically just over it now to find myself in the normal way, but it was definitely all worth it. I have my own company for quite so many years, right? So I started the journey of MBA as well, having a company and just kind of, learning more about the business environment and so on. So yeah, so that's me really.
Great, thank you. And Greg, you're next to the right on my screen.
Thanks, Adele. Hey, everybody. How you doing? My name's Greg. I'm doing the executive MBA, and I'm sorry, it's getting to the end of the MBA. We're in the last stretch, and I'm even getting confused about which course I'm on. I'm currently working at Hitachi Energy, and my role there is the European business lead for data center activity.
Super, thank you, Greg. And Cathal?
Hey folks, how's it going? Cathal O'Rian is my name. I graduated from the Executive MBA 2 years ago, I think.
That's right.
Time does fly though, so it feels like just yesterday. My position is I'm director for data science and data product management in Flutter Group. You might not know who Flutter are. It's the parent company for betting brands, Paddy Power, Betfair, Sky Betting and Gaming. So yeah, and I'm actually over in Leeds this evening on a company trip with that's where the headquarters for Sky Betting and Gaming is. So sorry, it's a bit late to the session, but I'm on now.
Great, thank you so much. So this is going to be kind of like an open discussion, guys. So at any point, if I ask anyone a question and you feel you have something that you'd like, to add on to any points being made, please do. Feel free to keep your microphones on at all times if you're in a comfortable position there. Monica, I'll start with you because your story is very interesting in terms of actually owning your own business. So might you share with the audience a little bit about what was going through your mind in terms of why you thought an MBA would be important to you, and how you went about actually, researching and ended up coming to UCD, Smurfit School, to do your MBA?
Yeah. So yeah, I thought actually the same, that it was a bit different from the others, right? I was the only one who had already a business, I suppose. So it for me, before really deciding on the journey on the MBA, I actually connected with UCD and asked to give me a contact maybe from a previous alumni. From previous alumni who was a business owner as well, to just connect with someone and see, what his or her experience was. And that helped me a lot to kind of clarify what the content is and how it will help me. Because for me, I was before the start, I was thinking along the lines, I'm in construction, right? So it's this is my forte kind of industry, and like I have great specialized knowledge in construction and engineering and so on. However, like in terms of finances and so on, that was never something that I studied. So a lot of tools that are needed for running a business and managing everything is I didn't quite have that, or I learned from experience or from researching on my own. And my focus was really to to grow the business and to make it more efficient and so on, and to manage it better. And I really had kind of two thoughts, that I either do it again on my own, but at the same time it will take me much longer to get there, right? As where if I would go for the MBA, it's like the extent of knowledge and content that there is, it would be just much faster for me to gain it. But also, like I realized very, very soon during the college that I actually wouldn't have done it on my own anyway, because there was so much knowledge that was given to me where that I didn't even know existed. Right. So I wouldn't have been even able to research it on my own. So,
the unknown unknowns, as they say.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So so that was really my thought process about this. And there was a bit of a because I had this thinking about the MBA during the COVID time, kind of at the start, and for a business it was a scary moment, right? So my kind of option B was always like, okay, if the business crushes because of COVID, I can always change the industry, something, with an MBA. So,
Great. Thank you for sharing, Monica. And actually, that's a really good point that you make about speaking to somebody who's either on the program or has recently completed the program. Because we always recommend that. So if anybody's thinking about starting in August, do reach out and we can put you in contact with somebody who's either in your sector or is from a similar background, or indeed is in a sector that you're looking to get into. And we're always very happy to do that. So Greg, what about
a lot.
Helps? It does really help to actually be able to speak to somebody who's kind of on your bandwidth, as they say. So Greg, how did you end up finding us from your sunny fields of Australia?
So yeah, I also probably had a different start to a lot of people. I actually started my MBA in a very similar fashion, a modular MBA in Western Australia. I'm from Western Australia, and after I moved to Ireland, I got in contact with my university and I asked them if they had any sister universities or any relationships with anybody out this way that they could recommend a really good business school. And there was no hesitance. They put me straight in touch with UCD. So I got in touch, and it's been a really good ride. A lot to really echo exactly what Monica said.
Super, thank you. And Cathal, can you remember that far back as to what you were ever thought about undertaking an MBA?
Yeah, I mean, so my background is when I came out of college, I did 7 years or so with Accenture in consulting. And then I had another 7 or so years with Aon, the commercial insurance broker. And I'm about 7 years here. So I'm I think I have a 7-year itch kind of thing. So I don't know, maybe I'll move on in time, although I'm enjoying it at the moment. But I guess I say that because those are 2 big American headquartered, corporates. And I would have spent a good bit of time in Chicago. They're both headquartered in Chicago. And in the States, an MBA it's almost a requirement to advancement in some of those organizations. So my colleagues, my friends that I was working with, it was always there on the radar, that this is a good thing to do and almost needed. As I said, to advance to higher positions in those organizations. But then also, I suppose I've been working in data and analytics for a very long time. Lead a team of data scientists here, as I said. I'm not sure if people on the call know many data scientists, and they're really clever people, but they're not necessarily always the world's finest communicators with the C-suite. And so I felt that an MBA would be super helpful for me for that reason. Data science is a differentiator in our industry. Everybody is interested in it. We probably struggle to articulate the limitations and the capabilities and the possibilities of what we can do. And I think that if I look back on it, that was the main advantage of doing the executive MBA for me, is that with each of the modules that I'm doing, I'm learning to speak the language of the CFO and his team, or the language of the people team, or the language of whichever department I might be working with to introduce data science solutions and to kind of work with them to, use our services to make the organization better. So I found it super helpful for that reason mainly.
Yeah, Great. We often hear people talk about transferable skills from the MBA, or indeed transferable frameworks. And it's often that people have some experience, or they're experiencing the business challenges in the workplace. And the MBA helps them to actually just frame those issues and put them into a language, a business context language. Monica, sorry, Carl.
No, I was just going to say, like, a lot of the projects that we undertook as well in the modules, I was able to apply to work at the time, and I was able to kind of reach out to and get access to, C-suite people in the organization. Now, you could argue I probably could have done that anyway if I had to get up and go to do it. But the MBA it was sort of the catalyst to get me interested in speaking to, what are we doing around, safer gambling, for example. How that's a big issue for us. That's our main social issue as a gambling company, and the industry has a poor name, a poor record. And what are we doing on that? And I did a project on that, and it was really, really interesting to speak to senior leaders in our company and find out where we were at, and actually how data science can help that, and how we can predict if people maybe, getting into behaviors that aren't very helpful for them. So it's actually a door opener in that way also. I think because it pushes you to do that, and it helped my company. I think my company got some good stuff out of that as a result also. So I can kind of draw lines from the MBA to things that we've done in this organization since I undertook the course.
Yeah.
Sorry, Adele. Just one more thing that I just wanted to, the one thing actually that we just haven't touched on that UCD really gave me a great thing during my MBA and coming out of it was I didn't have a massive network in Ireland when I moved here, and I want to say friends, because a lot of them have become friends, but the cohort that we've gained, and also through the various trips away to Prague with the full-timers and whatnot, it's been such a good way to really build a professional network, but also make some really close friends in similar industries and different ones that, Monica and Carl both touched on, something that I would never have spoken their language, which I've now been able to really learn and adapt to their ways.
Yeah,
I agree with that, definitely. Yeah, that was one of my things as well, that I didn't have too much of a big network, kind of, friends and so on in Ireland, and that definitely, like, it's amazing how many, how you connect with the people that you study with.
Yeah, it forms a common bond between classmates, which is really super into the future. I was just going to ask each of you maybe to share a highlight of the program in your memory. It may include one of the trips, or it may include your capstone project, or something that you'd like to share with the audience. And then I'm going to have a quick look in the Q&A box while you're actually answering that question. Monica, will you go first?
Yeah. So, I mean, there were many highlights really for me, I think, but like the kind of main highlights were really to really get to know all the people, and, the kind of the level of knowledge that each of, the classmates had, and just the sharing of thoughts, and, and kind of going through it all together, and support each other was just amazing. You never felt alone, and you just felt completely understood, by everyone, what you're going through. And but other than that, really the kind of the trip abroad for the doing business internationally in Lisbon, that was amazing as well, because like everything kind of came together. We got the possibility to really apply all the theories together in a project, and that was for me definitely kind of an eye opener, a complete different side of what I usually do.
Yeah. Cathal, I have a question here for you. With the advent of generative AI and disrupting traditional data science and ML techniques and modeling, how did the MBA help you navigate through the disruption in technologies?
Oh, I'm not sure I've fully navigated that yet. I think I'm doing it as we speak. It's so dynamic, I suppose, and like all our data engineers now are using generative AI. It's a time saver, I'd say. I think one of the comments that came up in the earlier session was, will this replace data analysts? I don't necessarily think it will replace data analysts, because I think a human needs to understand the context of the problem that they're dealing with in the particulars. But if you know how to use generative AI tools very well, it's a real time saver, because you can ask the tool to give you a function or a module that will give you exactly what you want and would have taken you hours to code yourself. But you're going to get a pretty good opening gambit for what you're looking for from the tool. I was speaking with one of our marketing creative guys in Sky Bet over here this morning at breakfast, and he was telling me how, again, it's a time saver for them. If they need to create copy for a CRM campaign, again, it's quite repetitive. You need a human, because you need that extra eye over it. You can't just hand the reins entirely over to the machine, but you can get a pretty good first stab pretty quickly using the tools. So look, it's changing our processes month to month, week to week, nearly in here. So I wouldn't say it's fully navigated, but the MBA, I suppose, gives you tools to deal with change. Yeah. And just more generally with change. And this is just, I suppose, generative AI is just change on steroids.
Yeah. I was actually in the company of a number of our MBAs last evening at PwC, and they repeated back to me something which I think stuck with me, which was the MBA teaches you to think hard, think smart, and think fast. And I suppose that's probably something I can see everybody's nodding their heads that probably resonates with all of us. And you learn how to do things pretty quickly, pretty well, pretty fast, which is great. Super. Greg, I want to ask you the next question, please, if that's okay. One of our attendees is asking if you could possibly speak to the time commitment of the EMBA, and seeing as you're on the current format, you're probably the best person to speak to about that.
Yeah, so it's obviously a bit of a time commitment. Sometimes it's hit and miss with if you're asking for an exact gradient, it's up and it's down. Some days it feels like you've got 2 full-time jobs, and some days it feels like you could kind of manage it. But it is really manageable. It's probably a good few hours, an hour or two a night, a good few hours a week, maybe a couple hours on the weekend. But it's nothing that isn't manageable. It's a lot of support with the college as well. The lecturers and the staff like Adele and Sinead and Catherine, Kieran really support along the way. So you never really feel like it's caving in on you. And if you do start heading that way, there's lots of support structures around you.
Yeah, so we like to keep things very organized. So just to give you an example, it's we call them semesters, so running from August through to Christmas. You will do 4 modules in a semester. So if you break that down, we expect you to be here on a Friday and Saturday 4 times, basically, to get to the end of the semester. And then we expect you to be in for what we call a block weekend, where we actually start each module. So we do a half day, and then we actually do a half day online somewhere in between. So when you're doing a module, think 2 long days, 2 half days, and on average, people say to me somewhere between kind of 10, 12 hours a week of study on top of that, including your group work. And that's how it tends to roll. So we keep it to 4 modules in 1 semester. You get a good break at Christmas. You're back in January. It starts again, another semester. And then we pretty much have you wrapped up, Greg, by June. So you tend to have the summer to yourself. We do ask you to travel. You might wish to travel with us for 1 week in June, but then you do have most of June, all of July, and then you're back again in August. And then it repeats. So the year goes by pretty quickly, and particularly the EMBA 2-year program does go by pretty quickly.
Flies by.
Yeah, flies by.
Absolutely flies by.
And we keep you well organized and well on track. Plenty of Google calendars and Google alerts and sharing folders and information. So you never feel like you're on your own, and it is very manageable. Okay, now we're getting into some more detailed questions on a one-to-one basis, so I won't actually put you to those, but we were going to just say a key highlight of the MBA program there before we started answering questions. Greg, what's been your key highlight?
Look, really, the long term is the network and the general lessons I learned about business, knowing what to do and what to ask and having an overview of everything. But the singular highlight would have to be our trip away. We got to go to Prague, and not only did I get to implement those lessons into a real life situation, working in a different culture across language barriers, which was really exciting. It was actually something that really opened my eyes up to the world that lays ahead of you once you finish the MBA and the lessons you've learned. It was the first time that I really looked into changing career or open my eyes up to the kind of industry I work in. So it was just a fantastic trip, from the being able to implement the real life lessons to, having great times with our cohort to, opening my mind up to what other options and possibilities are out there.
Right, thank you. And Cathal, for you?
Yeah, the guys have both said like the network and the people they met, and absolutely agree. Like I've been at weddings and
Yeah.
baptisms and all kinds of things with my capstone cohort, and that is the highlight. Like the network is the highlight.
Yeah.
I think the capstone project we did with Dublin Zoo, which is a great organization to work with and very, very different to Flutter. So that was also really, really good and really rewarding to work with that organization. And this is going to sound a bit nerdy and maybe like I'm kissing up because he's on the call, but Kieran Healy's classes, I loved the corporate strategy stuff. I look forward to that on Monday evenings. So I was going in every Monday and it was a highlight. Sorry, Monica, go ahead.
I agree with that.
That's great.
Agreed.
So thank you for that. I'm sure you really appreciate that. And Monica, your key highlight before we finish up.
I actually said it already. Just the people really, and the trip abroad in Lisbon. It was just really good. Just like Greg said, implementing everything and having the possibility to really bond with the people. Because you're constantly like learning and studying and whatever, and you barely have time to actually speak each other. And yet you're bonding, and the trip was a possibility to really, connect.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. So listen, guys, thank you all so much for sharing your experiences. And to both of my alums, hopefully we might see you next Wednesday night for our career evening. If you're coming along, you're more than welcome. And Greg, I'll see you actually on Friday.
This weekend,
yeah. So there you go. Thank you so much. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my colleague Mairead to actually join me. And Mairead, I am going to go back to the presentation and just take a moment to actually share your slides. So just bear with me. And now, okay. Now, Mairead.
Thank you, Adele. Thanks everybody for joining tonight. Great to see so many of you, and I'm sure you'll agree we've had a really interesting and stimulating conversation there. So just to finish it off, I suppose, in terms of explaining to you how the admissions process works, it's really straightforward. So I'm just going to give you an outline of what's needed. You do need a university degree. Potentially, if you don't have a degree, but you have very significant work experience, we'll certainly, consider you as a non-standard application, and it's not off the table for you just because you don't have a degree, but most people obviously do. For the full-time MBA, we require a minimum of 3, more likely 5 years professional experience. And what that means is, inverted commas, a proper job, not internships or contract roles or, part-time work you may have done. And for the executive MBA, a minimum of 7 years professional experience is what is required. For the full-time MBA, we require a competitive GMAT score or an executive assessment score. Potentially, we may require a candidate to do the GMAT or the executive assessment for the executive MBA, but that would be going back to what I said there in terms of maybe a non-standard application. We require 2 completed recommendation forms. It's really straightforward. An email is just sent to your referee and they just upload it, fill it out and upload it onto the system. If you're not coming from a an English language speaking country, we require a language test, and just to complete your application form outlining, you know, answering questions like, why do you want to pursue an MBA? What do you hope to achieve as an MBA graduate? And I suppose what you'll bring to the MBA class essentially, and to our community in Smurfit. There's also, you know, normal things that you would expect, like uploading a CV and passport photograph and you know, that type of thing. So the application process is very straightforward. The application comes to me. I'm the admissions manager for the 2 MBA programs. I review it, and then if you're eligible and you pass all the criteria, then we have an interview. It could be with me, it could be with Professor Kieran Heavey, it could be with Adele, and maybe some other colleagues. So there's a few of us that do the interviews. Your application is then referred on to an MBA admissions review committee, and they will decide whether, you know, you're going to receive an offer. Essentially, it could be a full offer for the MBA students, more likely a full offer for the full-time students. If they haven't completed their GMAT or their English language test, it would be conditional offer, just in terms of until they get offered, until they complete the conditions of the offer, and then they get the full offer. You have approximately 2 weeks to decide whether you're accepting your offer, and I'm there to assist and to help you with any stage of that process. But it really is quite straightforward. And even beforehand, please reach out if you're not sure about anything, about your own eligibility, or if you want any clarification on any aspect of the process. I'm available at any stage to chat to you. That's great, Adele. And just we have another slide on scholarships. So as you can see, we have a number of different categories of scholarships that we offer. We have the high profile media ones with business and finance, the journal. We have a GMAT Excellence Scholarship, and you can see there the Aspire scholarships. That's actually funded by a private donor, the Aspire scholarships, and it's based on financial need. So if you'd like to apply for Aspire, please go onto the website. The closing date is the 13th of May. So as I said, that's probably worth looking at if you're very, very keen to get a scholarship and you need that funding. The other scholarships, there's obviously the ones dedicated to sport. We have an entrepreneurial scholarship, and we have scholarships dedicated to women on the MBA, as you can see, the Image Scholarship, the 30% Club, and our own Women on the MBA scholarships. And then we have, as you can see, Recognising Excellence. In terms of those groups of scholarships and eligibility, or if you wish to be considered, how that's going to work this year. We did it last year and it worked very successfully. So we're going to do this, to have this process again this year, is that everybody who has been offered and accepted a place by the end of April, so that's the 30th of April, will be asked if they would like to apply for any of the scholarships. And the application process will be basically submitting a 3-minute video on yourself in terms of explaining why you merit a scholarship, you know, why you merit a scholarship based on your background. It could be your career history and your academic ability. It could be your contribution you've made to the community. And I suppose to reflect how you will contribute to the class, you know, how you will add to the general, as I said, Smurfit community, and help your sponsors that, you know, if you get the Image Scholarship, how you know, you'll be available as a brand ambassador, shall we say, and to fulfill some commitments that way. So that will be a 3-minute video that you will submit on yourself. The correspondence in relation to that and the instruction won't be sent out until the end of the month, and there'll be approximately 2 weeks then for you to submit it. The MBA committee will review all those videos then mid-May, and the scholarships will be awarded towards the end of May. So that's the process for that. Again, I'll just reiterate the date. Please have your applications in as soon as possible. We'll process them very quickly, you know, as I said, probably within a week, 10 days. And once, you know, that's done, ideally you'll have accepted, you can apply for the scholarships. And again, to reiterate, just contact me at any stage throughout the process, and I'm here to help you to assist you and give you any counsel or advice that I can that will help your application. Thank you very much.
Thanks. No problem. Thanks, Mairead. And I'm just going to pop up our contact details and some key dates. Just to be aware, the eMBA commences on August 21st of this year. A lot of people think that we start in September. We don't. So first day of class is August 21st. So if you're thinking of joining this year, that's a key date for the diary. The full-time MBA commences on August 27th. General inquiries to mba@ucd.ie, or you can connect with Mairead or I on LinkedIn. And if you'd like to read some of our current students' experiences or some alumni experiences, we have a lovely Smurfit School blog at smurfitschool.com, smurfitschoolblog.com, where you can read their kind of day-to-day experiences, writing about things that have been happening over the last 12 months. So now I'm going to take one last look into the Q&A box. I did actually notice that I actually had a question from Kieran, I think it is, Kieran asking me about professional development and whether the MBA had changed any of the panelists. So what I recommend, Kieran, if you want to actually reach out to me directly, I may be able to put you in contact directly with one of our panelists from this evening. You can have a private chat with them. And as I said, that opportunity is open to everyone to do that. Someone is asking me what is the last date for international students to apply to the full-time MBA. That's a very relevant question, actually, because our full-time MBA class is nearing completion now. But we do operate what we call rolling admissions. So any applications that come in will be rolled forward to the following academic year. But there probably is a couple of days, really, realistically, if you already have your GMAT or your EA in place, then certainly do get your application in and be aware of that date for scholarship deadline if you are looking to have a scholarship to actually come to UCD Smurfit School. As Mairead said, it's the 30th of April. So you would need to have your GMAT in place in order to actually qualify to be considered for a scholarship. And then we would please ask any international students who are looking to come to study with us in August to be physically present in Ireland from the first week of August in order to start processing their Irish residency permits so that we can get you the appropriate visas to travel as part of the GNAM programme. And the offers for that will be going out in July. So there's a number of kind of important days that happen now over the summer. That also then brings me on to my last point for this evening, which is that from next month, May, anybody who has an offer or a conditional offer, we will start the onboarding webinars. So they are particularly targeted at international students, where we will be talking about the visa processes. We will be talking about accommodation in Ireland and really just getting you settled into the Irish system. So we will be starting those in May, and you will hear from us directly to the email that you gave us when you started your application. So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much to all our panelists for joining us this evening, to Professor Heavey and to Dr. Luca Vistilli, and to my Catherine, my colleague Kathy, and so many others in the background who it takes to actually make this webinar happen, and to my colleague Mairead for processing all your applications. So please do reach out, get in touch, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.